before we kind of dive deep into the candidacy and the election, really, if by chance somebody has not heard of Mr. Vance Johnson, let's kind of give a introduction to you, okay?
Oh, absolutely. I was born in Henderson, and I was in the military. I went into the military, served in Desert Storm in the Army. That's where I met my wonderful wife. She also was.
She's good people.
She was serving in the Army as well, so she's a veteran. And when I got out, my dad had gotten into law enforcement, and it kind of piqued my interest. At first, I thought he was nuts, right? And then it kind of piqued my interest, and I decided to put myself through basic law enforcement training. And it was exciting. It was something I really enjoyed, and I was the class leader in basic law enforcement. I had the highest academic honors. I knew I had to do that because I was putting myself through. I started with the Henderson Police Department in '93, graduated BLET in '92. In '93, and it was just kind of a whirlwind there. I've been just about any kind of position you can dream of. I've been a K-9 officer, general investigator, drug investigator, and not only have I done those jobs, I've also been a commander of those units as well throughout time. I'm a K-9 instructor, a trainer. I'm an instructor. I was an instructor for over 2 decades with Vance Granville, taught in the basic law enforcement program. I've held every rank in law enforcement that there is, from sergeant all the way to chief. So I've seen those many different aspects of it. I've created a whole lot of different things that I thought was needed to be successful in the law enforcement field. I created a SWAT team because we needed that training and experience. I created the first highway interdiction team in this area many years ago. So I've tried to be innovative in some of that stuff. I'm part of an accredited agency. It is the only one in this region. Accreditation really means a lot, and it means that we're following best police practices, and we have the best police policies, internationally. So that's critical. I live in Bullock, the big old town of Bullock.
That's right.
And I've got I've been married 33 years just the other day. So we just celebrated an anniversary. I've got 2 grown daughters who are just wonderful, great people, with 3 grandchildren. And they're all Granville County residents.
Bless you.
So, what a great thing about a grandchild is you can have fun with them and then go home. Right? Yeah.
I've been trying to do that for my son to my grandparents, so we'll try to get that going. Again, Vance Johnson joins us here. He's candidate for Granville County Sheriff on our Local Talk program, part of our Decision 2022, which is a special edition of the Local Talk program. So your extensive background in law enforcement, you've done it, just like you just mentioned, done it a lot, not only for the community, but for the law enforcement itself. Now, talk about the kind of the more difficult times in that range of your professionalism, if you can.
Wow. Okay. So it's, you always have difficult things happen just about daily in the law enforcement field, right? I think that the things that stand out most would be dealing with children. I've had to deal with, child abuse cases and, the death of children and that type of thing is certainly things that weigh on you heavily. It's something that you don't want to experience. But, I think you go into those things knowing that you're the one to make it right and to do things the right way to get justice for people and that type of thing. And you have to look at it that way. We've experienced a lot of ups and downs in law enforcement, and I've been in it a very long time. We've experienced a lot. And here recently, with the defund police movement, it's created quite a bit of uncertainty, I guess, and I feel it's very difficult to attract applicants because you can't go to a 20-year-old and say, hey, you want to be the police, because they're not interested. But it's also created actually more funding for police than most.
Wow,
yeah, so
okay.
it had an opposite effect because now we're having to, pay more benefits and salary and that type of thing to attract people. because honestly, you've got to have law enforcement.
Yeah, the right candidates for the job. Yeah.
Right, you have to have law enforcement. So, you know, that's kind of been a struggle for law enforcement nationwide. It's all over, and I see some shifts there coming, maybe for the positive, and you know, so there's been a lot of struggles and ups and downs and highs and lows, and I think that's what a lot of things that you do in life.
Vance Johnson joins us here. He's candidate for Granville County Sheriff. Joins us here by way of our Local Talk program. We are live by way of all of our social media: YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, whatever you name it. Of course, live on nextdoorradio.com and the Google and Apple Store or the app. So talk a little bit about why now? Why run for Granville County Sheriff, part of the Republican Party? Why run right now?
Right now, let's see. You know, it sounds a little odd, I guess, for how I kind of reached this decision, because it's been well over a year since I was first thinking about it. Something that I think people really need to know about me is that when I first started doing this, it was because of the deputies, the detention officers, and the employees at the sheriff's office. You know, I feel like there's so many people that go to work and do such a fantastic job that are absolutely not getting the credit that they deserve. Have they had a black eye in the past? Absolutely. I mean, I don't think anyone can deny that. But I think that my reasoning for getting into this is that the way you're going to rebuild trust, because I keep hearing rebuild trust in the community, is that starts within the organization. And if they don't trust in that organization, you're never going to spread it out in the community. They need someone, they need a leader that can come in, and that I'm not going to require you to be loyal to me over your integrity. Your integrity in treating people the right way is first and foremost to me. So, you know, you can not support me and work for me. I just want you to come to work, because how you represent me is that you have integrity and you respect people. That's how you represent me. So, you know, I would never require a deputy to support me. You know, they can vote however how they want to vote. But when they're working, they're going to represent me in the community with about full integrity and respect. And I don't think that's unreasonable to ask. And I think that they need that. And I would say to those deputies and detention officers, you know, go home and think about that. You know, think about, you know, wow, you hear so often, stop me if I get long-winded now, Trey, but, you know, think about how often, from their perspective, I want them to think about, are you getting adequate training? Do you have the staffing needed to do your job in the right places at the right time? You know, I've got concerns with that, but they need to be asking themselves that. You know, I think that this whole political, even in the primary races and even some now, you know, there's a lot of talk. I hear people all the time, oh, you're going to fire everybody, and that's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard in my life. I mean, you know, from a law enforcement executive experience that I have, you never go in and fire everybody. It makes absolutely no sense. You know, so that's just something that I think that gets talked about in the community. It gets spread with, you know, in the community. You know, you got to remember that a lie travel halfway around the world before the truth ties the shoes.
That's a good point. I might steal that, by the way. Not to see that. I like that. Again, Vance Johnson joins here by way of our Local Talk program, Decision 2022, part of our social media, also on nextdoorradio.com and the Nextdoor Radio app, available by the Google and Apple Store. So I want to think of, really, we're going to talk about the election here in just a second, but I want you to think of three different things, all right, that you would, if you have the opportunity to be elected the next Granville County Sheriff, think of three different things that you would go in and try to facilitate right away.
My first I've got several priorities. I think that the first priority has got to be the safety of the citizens. You know, that's first and foremost on my mind, and it should be first and foremost on the citizens' mind. And I think that look, there's times that there's 2 deputies to respond to calls in this county. You know, and I say that in that, you know, you may have a deputy going to the mountains to transport a mental patient, and now you've got 2 deputies to respond. Now, to the average person, that really doesn't mean a lot because you don't need a deputy. But I would say this: get in your car and drive from Wilton to Grassy Creek, and imagine during that time that your house is being broken into. Now it matters that there's only 2 deputies to respond. So, you know, I think that some things, there's certainly ways to address that. I think we need minimum staffing. You've got to require some minimum staffing to be available, some differential policing, some, you know, data-driven type patrols and where we place our officers. So that's a priority. Safety is number one, and I think that that's one thing that we need to address very quickly is, you know, response times and how we respond to crimes. I would say another priority, you know, it's a huge topic, the school safety. We need to do a better job. I went to the school safety summit and listened, and I think they're doing a fantastic job. So I'm not being critical of the systems that are in place. I think we need to be moving forward in a way, you know, as your sheriff, I want to sit at the table with the commissioners and the school board and the superintendent and the county manager, and let's figure out, you know, how we can hire deputies to be school resource officers and put them in all the schools. You know, I think we've got the resources already there to make that happen. Part of the problem is hiring them because you know, there's a shortage there. But you set short and long-term goals. You know, so we should have a goal of having a school resource officer in every school. It's an absolute necessity, in my opinion. School safety, I think we need to be involved in, you know, it's crime prevention through environmental design. So we should be at the schools talking about, you know, what things are in place to prevent crimes, you know, even from a building perspective. You know, trim your bushes so nobody can crawl through a window, kind of thing, and be hidden. It's a lot of different things like that with school safety that I think that it's important.
See, a lot of people don't think about that kind of stuff until something happens, and that's a great point.
Right, and that goes way back. I could give you specific examples of how that works, but I mean, you know, it's and where it comes from. Let me give you one so you know. Blockbuster Video. I'm showing my age, right?
No, hey, I remember it.
Yeah. So you go into Blockbuster Video, there's one entrance, and you have to go by the counter. They always spoke to you and made eye contact with you. When you got a video and went to the counter, there was only one way out. You checked out and you went out that one exit. It was all crime prevention through environmental design, because people don't commit crimes when you recognize them, so they were making eye contact. There was only one entrance and only one exit, so you had to go by the employee if you were going to steal something. So these types of things have been done for years. And it's something that I think we can do a better job probably in our school system with our school buildings and our school staff. You said 3 priorities. The first one I think I've already talked about. You know, when we talk about rebuilding trust, look, trust starts at the top. It starts, stops, ends with me. It has to be that way, and it will be that way. You know, I will expect my officers to have integrity and treat people with respect. And when that happens, we then earn trust. You earn it. You don't demand it. You don't create it. You earn it, but it starts from within. So it can't start unless it starts with me. So that's a priority. Day one, guaranteed. It starts immediately. You know, people are held accountable. But also this is something we fail to do in law enforcement. It's horrible, and I try to point it out all the time. You know, you don't catch a deputy doing something wrong. You catch him doing something right, because the wrong things are going to happen. They're going to get pointed out. You don't have to go chase it down. You need to go chase down the good things, because we're not giving them the praise that they deserve. It's a thankless job. You need to find the good things. So that's another priority, is to rebuild that trust within that organization. Within the organization, not the community first, because it'll never work if there's not trust in that organization.
Vance Johnson joins us here by way of live in studio here, part of our local talk program, a special edition, Decision 2022. He is the Granville County Republican Party candidate for Granville County Sheriff. So let's kind of dive deep into the election integrity, talk a little bit more about that, and we'll go into a few other things.
The election itself, something that I have seen. I can't say that I'm not a politician, because I am now. I guess that's what everybody says, right? But it's certainly a little overwhelming and different. I think that it certainly takes some adjustments. I think that social media certainly adds a huge aspect to it that probably hadn't been in place for very long. So I think that's kind of a new thing. I've actually gotten to the point where I don't pay a lot of attention to comments and things on social media. I kind of avoid that kind of thing, because I feel like if, hiding behind a keyboard and not having a real name or whatever just doesn't add value to anything. I'm open to discuss whatever. I find it a little surprising that I've got people that are just absolutely dead set against me, but they've never had a conversation with me, and vocally against me, but yet have never had a conversation. And I'm okay with them being against me. Look, I'm not going to get all the votes. I realize that. That's not what I'm asking for. But I think you've got to be reasonable in this and have conversations with all of the candidates. If you're going to be a fair judge to this election, have those conversations with all of the candidates. Don't judge, because I had a field training officer very early in my career tell me, don't form your opinion based on what others tell you. Go out and form your own opinion about people. So I see a lot of that. And look, things can get nasty, and I'm sure divisive. I don't do that. I don't make those kind of comments. I think we're at a point in this race where, we've got three candidates that are, good in their own respect. Certainly, I'm not. I would never be critical of either of their character. I don't attack them like that. There's no point in that. I think the citizens need to be able to evaluate what is the right experience that's needed for Granville County. What is the right experience to guide it in the right direction? It's very difficult for someone to say, well, it's very easy for someone to say that we're going to do these things. But I immediately follow that up with, well, how did that work when you did it? Because I've done these things. So you've got to be able to point to examples on how they were successful, because you're going to meet bumps in the road that teach you when you implement things. So having ideas are great, but how did they work when you did them?
Vance Johnson joins us here by way of our local talk program, Decision 2022. I'm going to ask this question, and this will kind of wrap it up our segment here today.
That's too short.
I know. It's 20 minutes. I know. It's 20 minutes. So talk a little bit about what are you comfortable having a debate with the other two candidates for?
Man, there's been so much talk all over social media.
Exactly.
Debate this, debate. I mean, I've got there's people that seem to be lining up a debate with me that I haven't even discussed that with any of these folks, right? So it's like, what I find surprising about all of this is that I understand that all three candidates are going to want something. You want to make sure it's fair. All three need to be comfortable with that, right? So that's where I'm at. I mean, I don't know where these people that are saying debate and trying to set it up and all of that, I don't know where that comes from, right? Because quite honestly, if Mr. Fountain has said he wants to debate, Mr. Fountain has my phone number. He can call me and we can go and discuss how we want to run a debate. We don't need some outside source to figure that out. So, I'm open to discussing it. Certainly, there's 3 candidates. I'd like them all 3 to be there. There's some things that I would want out of it, but I'm sure that Mr. Fountain and Mr. Smoot would too. Well, I mean, why wouldn't they?
Yeah.
So I'm open to that conversation.
Fantastic. So I'm gonna leave this last couple minutes to kind of leave the floor open. No questions I'm gonna ask. Just kind of, this is your time to say, hey, why should Granville County vote for you for the next Granville County Sheriff?
There's been a lot. I know that I think the GOP did a show last week on here. I watched part of it. I didn't even watch it all, to be honest with you, because I try to stay away from some of that social media stuff. I think that what people need to realize here is that, number one, the GOP don't represent Vance Johnson. Okay, yes, I'm a GOP candidate, and yes, I'm a proud conservative candidate. But the GOP's never run a sheriff's office. Okay, so that's where I think that people need to realize that there's a difference there. The GOP is supporting me because I'm their candidate. Certainly, some of our values are similar, but they don't speak for me. I'm my own person. I'm the candidate for sheriff, and I can, that's the thing that you need to realize is I'm the one with the law enforcement experience, the right experience, not the GOP, not the Democratic Party. They're not sheriff candidates, so they don't speak for me. That's why I'm here speaking now, and I think that that's important for people to realize. And when you evaluate your candidates, again, evaluate what is the right experience, okay? Because we all have experiences in life. I'd never walk in this door and take your seat and think I could do your job.
You probably could.
I don't have that type of experience, right? But in this instance, I am the right choice because I have the right experience. So evaluate that. I think there's a reason why, I'm sure I'm running over time, Trey. I'm sorry. I'm sure that there's a reason why, the Constitution says to be qualified for sheriff, you got to be 21, live in the county. And there's a reason why there's such a minimum standard there. Because guess what? The people are going to hold you to a high standard. And they're the ones who need to decide, not the law. The people of Granville County need to decide. So they need to decide based on what experience fits. So it does sound kind of silly that a college-age person that's never worked a day in their life could actually be elected to sheriff. But there's a reason behind that, because it's in the hands of the people. It's not in my hands, it's not in yours, it's in the entirety of the people. And I think that's important. Get out there and do your research and know who has the right experience.
Who is the right individual to lead Granville County?
Absolutely. And like I said before, I don't expect to get all the votes. I think that, I saw somebody make a comment the other day that, well, you're pushing me to support. No, support who you think is the right person. Support them in the right way. I do not encourage you to attack other candidates. I think that's wrong. I've called people and said, please don't make that comment, please delete it, that kind of thing. I think that that's the wrong approach. But if you want to say that another candidate doesn't have the experience, then I think that's a realistic thing to say. Well, that's not an attack on anyone's character. That is a measure of what the citizens need to be looking at.
Again, have an open mind, no matter what party you're affiliated with. Have an open mind. Who is the right individual for the job? I absolutely love that, my friend. Hey, God bless you. Thank you so much for not only what you do for the community, for standing up and what you believe in. I appreciate that very much. Okay?
Well, I appreciate you having me, Trey. I enjoy it. So.
Absolutely. So we're going to do this here once a week. I'm excited to welcome you back here next week. Again, my name is Trace Knight. He is Vance Johnson. He is the candidate for Granville County Sheriff. Until next time, hey, God bless. Thanks so much for being a part of our show. We will see you later.